So, Zelda. Haven't been a fan for most of my life, but recently, this came out, and I fucking love it. It's already my most played Switch game, and it only came out a month ago. First Zelda game I ever beat. It's awesome, it's really awesome. And, playing this, I'm thinking, wow, this is great. And then I think about, the 2D Zelda stuff, because, 3D Zelda is... It's critically reviewed, everybody likes it. Maybe I could like it, I just never really been able to get into it, though. A lot of the games have, these really long prologues with, story stuff and, very little gameplay, and a lot of the gameplay is, it reflects none of what you actually do in the game, and I hate that. I hate it when games do that. So, yeah, Metroid's always been my go-to action-adventure Nintendo franchise. But, 2D Zelda has always been, a little bit easier for me, because, it has, that prologue stuff less, the game design was more condensed. Well, so then you could get, something really good. I mean, we haven't gotten a new 2D Zelda game since Link Between Worlds. We've gotten Remake, and we've gotten Spin-Off, both of which were pretty great, and, but even then, Link Between Worlds was 10 years ago. And even Link Between Worlds really rips on Link to the Past, so it's kind of we need something, new, right? You know what I'm saying? In the Switch's lifetime, Samus Returns got a 3DS remake, and then Nintendo liked what they were doing with that, and then they pushed out Metroid Dread. 2D series in a beloved franchise, which had been taken over by 3D for a bit, got a remake of a 2D game, and then it got a big, full new 2D game that's as big as the 3D ones that everyone loved. Why can't we do that with Zelda? We got the remake. We got the remake. Can Grezzo get on a new 2D Zelda? There's rumors about a remake of the Oracle games. I like that. I do want remakes of the Oracle games, but I want a new one more, right? But since it looks like Oracle remake's probably more likely, I'm just gonna give my own pitch idea for a new 2D Zelda game. Kind of I don't know, consider it the spiritual successor to this video about my pitch for a new 2D Mario game. That's not super fucking basic. I'm looking at you. So this game's name is The Legend of Zelda: Shadows of Descent. Its timeline placement is in the child timeline. It's around 300 years after Twilight Princess. And this game's deal will be that Hyrule is now a jungle area. There's a story reason for that, I'll get to it in a second. But, a lot of Zelda games have had, a whole thing with the overworld to make it just not, boring grasslands. Ocarina of Time had the time travel thing, Majora's Mask had the also time travel thing, plus the world getting destroyed in 3 days. Link to the Past was Dark World, Minish Cap, Shrink and Grow. Wind Waker, Ocean, Twilight Princess, you turn into a wolf and there's Twilight areas. Skyward Sword, Sky. So I figured this game would need something to make it unique as well. If not gameplay-wise, at least aesthetically. Jungle probably won't have... There's going to be a good bit of effect gameplay-wise, but not a ton. It's going to be hard to traverse some areas, but that's it. And lore reason for this, right? Let's get into the story part. After threat had rained down on Hyrule over the past millennia, Hyrule's king found that enough was enough and ordered a band of 3 ancient mages to cover the kingdom in a magical jungle that would shield the kingdom from danger. The jungle's magical evil warding abilities are kept intact by 3 towers throughout Hyrule, each containing an artifact empowered by the mages. The artifacts are connected by a 4th artifact in the vault in the throne room in Hyrule Castle. This 4th artifact takes the energy from the 3 artifacts in the towers, and it transmits them throughout Hyrule to keep the jungle's magic going, and keep it, keeping the monsters and the Ganons out. For 250 years, it has kept the people of Hyrule safe, but everyone knows it can't last forever. Now, the one thing you'll notice that I said mages. Instead of, I had there would be 3 mages, magic users, yada yada, instead of sages. Normally you'd expect, the 6 sages to do this. Why am I not using the 6 sages? That's, a classic thing. And don't worry, we'll get to that. There is a reason that these are not the 6 sages. There's a reason I use magic users instead of sages. I know that magic is, more a higher concept in Zelda. There's been wizards, there's been, Twin Rova sisters, and, Vati the Wind Mage, and Yuga and Aghanim, but, and then there's magic-wielding enemies and fortune tellers, but they're not, they haven't, really gone into it. But that's a good excuse for a game to go really into it, because that's an element we haven't explored yet. So this game focuses a lot more on the magic users in Hyrule. So with the whole jungle keeping monsters and evil out, the need for a military in Hyrule has become much less. There's a few members in the King's Guard, and then the new Princess Zelda has herself her own bodyguard, Link, obviously, of course. But for the most part, Hyrule's defenses is at an all-time low. So one day, Princess Zelda takes her friend and bodyguard Link to have his fortune told at one of the fortune teller areas. The fortune teller begins with minor details about Link's future, but then comes across a dark foreboding involving Link's involvement in the destruction of the Great Jungle of Hyrule and the new king's death. What? And naturally, Zelda freaks out about this. We assume Link does as well, but of course he doesn't have a voice. And so the two rush into the castle to tell the king, only to find that the castle is being invaded by strange shadow monsters. Now this is very out of the ordinary. It's very out of the ordinary. Because as I said, the jungle keeps monsters like this out, so weird monsters made of shadow is basically unheard of in this place for multiple centuries. Monsters don't go here anymore. And it is more than peculiar that monsters are able to be in here. But regardless, the castle is still under attack, so Link begins to fight his way through the shadow monsters and trying to get into Hyrule Castle to get to the king. But when he arrives in the throne room, he finds 3 hooded figures. One of the hooded figures blasts the king with a strange magic thingy, and the king is hit and he dies. Link and Zelda both attempt to rush the figures because, you killed my father! You killed my girlfriend's father! I mean, not girlfriend, I'm bodyguard, yep. But they're blown aside by the 3 hooded figures' power. The 3 then break into the vault and break the artifact inside, the 4th artifact that's keeping the other 3 artifacts working. And this causes the magic of the jungle across Hyrule to fail, and it lets the monsters roam the lands once more, and starts making, like, the 3 other artifacts, like, misaligned, or, like, they stop working fully. And this is the part where Zelda takes matters into her own hands. Zelda has been told by her parents, like, several times that she's got part of the royal bloodline, one of the Zeldas, yada yada, reincarnation of Hylia, Triforce of Wisdom. She got the divine power, so she uses that divine power to try and hold what little magic that's left together. So she holds the little magic that the other 3 artifacts are still transmitting, and she does what the 4th artifact was doing, except now she's the artifact, and she's transmitting it throughout Hyrule now. It's not actually really working fully because the other 3 artifacts aren't working fully. So what this does is it puts a protective bubble around Hyrule Castle and the surrounding castle town, and it stops the jungle and the rest of the kingdom from fading fully, but monsters are still everywhere. Now, since Hyrule has so little guard at this point, and a lot of them were killed in the attack from the shadow monsters, Zelda entrusts Link to go to the 3 towers and realign the artifacts to get the jungle's magic working fully. But now we're into the actual game. We're past the initial story part. So as I already said, the world map is a jungle. This is it. It's Jungle Hyrule. Here we have the Hyrule Castle in town. It's protected by the bubble, as I said. There's Kakariko Village and Lake Hylia on either side. And then ignore these for now. We'll get to them later. It's the second set of dungeons. We're on the first set of dungeons right now. So for the moment, there is 3 towers. The Lake Tower near the Lake of the Zora, the Mountain Tower by Death Mountain, and the Desert Tower in Gerudo Desert. Link will have to go to each of them individually to get the jungle's magic working again. Now, he can visit them in any order, unlike Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, all that stuff. There is, like, a lot more item-based progression in this. Like, it's more like traditional Zelda. You need to get this item, like you need to get, like, the hook shot to be able to cross over to the dungeon. So here, while you can complete each of these dungeons in any order, you still have to go through typical Zelda progression in each of these areas to reach the dungeon, and then the dungeons in there are the traditional 2D Zelda dungeons instead of the new ones. Preferably a bit less annoying and frustrating and playthrough ending, though, because a lot of the old dungeons are all of those things a lot of the time. I'm gonna be completely real. And there's a lot of them, too. So, anyway, 3 areas. I will go over each of them individually, starting with the Lake Tower. So, Zora Lake. To get to Zora Lake, it's led up to it by a series of rivers, only one of which I have drawn on the actual map. which eventually gives way to Zora Lake. A tower is at the center of the lake. Link will need to find an abandoned boat currently occupied by a couple monsters on the edge of the lake. And nearby Zora will explain that the guy who owned it abandoned it after getting chased away by the monsters. Link can slay the monsters, and he can take the boat into the main area of the lake where the Zoras live. We can buy flippers off of a merchant so we can swim properly, which I'll need to do because the lake tower has water in it and won't be able to bring the boat inside. Additionally, everyone in the town mentioned some crazy hooded person that entered the tower. So, after buying the flippers, the town is brought under attack by water monsters. And Link will have to help fight off. Yes, there's water combat here. And once the invasion is dealt with, Link can enter the tower. The lake tower contains multiple swimming puzzles, which, as I said, will prevent you from going through without the flippers, and diving puzzles. A bit way through, you're given the breathing gear that allows you to breathe underwater early on into the dungeon, so you can do the diving part. And that lets you unlock a whole bunch of new stuff in the dungeon, yada yada yada. And then once you get to the top, there is some story stuff and a boss. I will talk about the story stuff afterwards and on its own. It's more interesting than the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom story stuff that happens after each dungeon, I swear. Second area, Gerudo Desert. The desert is surrounded by jungle, but the desert itself is untouched. In the middle of the desert, you will find the Gerudo town, which is in partial ruins after a devastating monster attack. The tower you're looking for is in the middle of a canyon, with the entrance being elevated highly, so like you can't go enter it through the bottom of the canyon. You have to like get at it from like the edge of the canyon, like the top of the canyon. You have to find a way to get to the entrance part from there. The only way to reach it is by a hook shot. A Gerudo near the tower will tell you that there's an old but likely still functioning hook shot in a cave nearby town that's occupied by monsters. The cave was collapsed after a retaliation during the monster attack, but there should be a shovel that you can buy in town that you can use to open up the cave. So Link buys the shovel and he digs out the entrance and he fights a few monsters. He fights a big old horde of monsters. And he finds a partially buried chest which has a hookshot in it. Whoa! The Desert Tower. The Desert Tower will contain a lot of puzzles with the shovel and hookshot, go figure, along with a few sandstorm rooms that will obstruct your vision, maybe some like sandstorm goggles that allow you to go through the sandstorm without like, getting like the sand in your face. And then once again, story stuff and boss stuff happens after you get to the top. I will touch on that after I've touched on all the areas. And region number 3. So, following the fall of the jungle's protection, this mountain has been completely overtaken by monsters and is difficult to traverse from up top. So because of this, the residents of the mountain have taken to the caves within the mountain. The caves are hard to see in at first, but near the foot of the mountain, Goron offers Link a stone made of a mineral that glows in the dark, which allows you to see inside of the mountain. Everyone in the cave says that a crazy hooded person entered the tower. Oh, did I mention? Oh, in Gerudo, I forgot to say that. Oh my god. In Gerudo Town, the Gerudos are also saying that a crazy hooded person entered the tower. I cannot believe I blanked on saying that. I am a fool. Anyway, after climbing the mountain through the populated caves and the dangerous exterior, Link finds the tower. The tower is on top of a big ledge, and Link will need to buy a grappling hook from a shop inside one of the caves to be able to scale up to the tower. And yeah, grappling hook, hook shot, there's a difference. Okay, hook shot in this game, you use it to get across areas. Grappling hook, you use it to climb ledges, okay? I know there's some, I know in Wind Waker you use it to like Indiana Jones around. Here it's like a climb ledges thing, which I'm pretty sure is what it's actually used for anyway in like real life. So, yeah. Mountain Tower contains multiple somewhat dark rooms. It's limited to only by the glowing stone you have, and occasionally lava with platforms moving across it, and also multiple ledges that need to be climbed with a grappling hook. And then there's some rocks that you need to upgrade that you find, like a power glove that you find inside the dungeon that you can use to pick up rocks. And then you get to the top, you do the thing, yada yada. Once again, I will say the story stuff after. Of course, after is almost here. First, I would like to talk a bit more about the items that are used to progress. You would imagine that once you get, say, the hookshot and then use it to clear the desert tower and all that, you would imagine that once you leave Gerudo Desert and then go to one of the other 2 regions, that you wouldn't use it that much anymore since that region can be done first, and therefore it wouldn't make sense to have an item from another region be required for that region because you're meant to do these in any order. However, in this case, while there wouldn't be any mandatory progression with any of the items from the other areas, I do think it would be good to have a lot of secrets or optional puzzles that you can use only with the items from those other areas. Therefore, the stuff that you get from the other areas can still be used in the new area that you're in, and you'd be missing those secrets if you did that area first. And then it's also an incentive to go back to these locations later, because then you can use these new items you've collected from the other regions to find more secrets and get, like, rupees and heart tanks and all that. It helps out the item-based progression more, makes it more balanced between this and this. Anyways, onward to the story part. In Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, since you would go to the different dungeons in any different order, they decided to make the story disconnected from the main game's progression, and you would have to track down memories. I don't really like that, so I found a workaround to make it so that the story would fit in with the game's progression and work with completing the first 3 dungeons in any order. So there's 3 different story points. One which happens at the end of completing your first dungeon, one which happens at the end of completing your second dungeon, and one that happens at the end of completing the 3rd dungeon. Now, this happens regardless of which dungeon your first, second, or 3rd is. The same sort of dialogue and cutscene will always play out, even though it will be with a different character. Anyways, here's what actually happens in the story points now that I'm done explaining how it's set up. Once you reach the top of each of the towers, you find one of the 3 hooded figures that the people in each of the towns told you about. The one at the top of the lake tower is named J-Lo, the one at the top of the desert tower is named Rula, and the one at the top of the mountain tower is named Kyrian. The first tower you visit, whoever you're talking to tells you that chaos is beautiful. They tell you about the beautiful chaos. Mass death is beautiful. This hooded figure is crazy. And destruction is beautiful. They say Hyrule's been without it too long, and that the kingdom must be freed from the mistakes of their ancestors. That hooded figure then summons a boss monster for you to fight, and after defeating it, you realign the artifact. Upon leaving the dungeon, an old man comes up to you and tells you that he believes that the 3 bad guys are clinically insane to a psychotic degree. He tells you that he's encountered them before, and that, yeah, they have some mental issues going on. The second hooded figure you meet will give you a lot more crucial information. They'll tell you that the 3 hooded figures, himself included, are actually the descendants of the 3 mages that made the jungle in the first place. Dun dun dun! They'll tell you that because their ancestors created the jungle, it is their birthright to destroy the jungle, no matter what the old man always says about them. Then they summon a stronger boss monster for you to fight, and after defeating it, you realign the artifact. Before you entering the 3rd tower, like right before you enter it, the old guy from the 1st tower comes up to you again. He explains that even if you can stop the 3 from destroying the protective jungle, it's not in their nature to quit. The old guy, as I said, has a history with them. He actually used to raise these 3 and tried to stop them from becoming so unhinged, but it didn't work. The reason they're so unhinged is the creation of the Great Jungle of Hyrule was an extremely monumental task, even for wielders of powers as strong as the 3 mages did. The creation of the Great Jungle was very taxing on the 3 mages, but the real cost came to their bloodline. Every time a new offspring was born into the mages' family trees, they became more and more unhinged every time. Upon the arrival of the latest generation, it became so much that by the time they were grown up, the primary emotion that the 3 were even capable of feeling was psychotic madness. Since their ancestors were the creators of the Great Jungle of Hyrule, the 3 were immune to its evil warding effects. The old man knows all this because he was the man who had to raise the 3 when they were younger, after their parents died for similar reasons to why the insanity was plaguing these 3. He tried to do his best to keep the 3 on the right track when they were younger, and to turn their emotions back to normal, but it didn't work. The 3 rediscovered the powers of their ancestors and set out to destroy Hyrule. After you climb to the top of the 3rd tower, the 3rd new mage you meet will start to get angry at Link, telling him how they're so close to bringing things back to the rightful, chaotic way they should be after so many years, and that Link needs to get out of their way and let bloodshed reign supreme once again. Crazy! They summon a very powerful boss monster for you to fight, and after defeating it, you realign the artifact. Realigning it causes the decaying parts of the jungle to be restored, and a lot of the monsters make their exit. Afterwards, however, you notice from the top of the tower that something bad is happening at Hyrule Castle. Upon return to Hyrule Castle, you notice it's under attack again. The protective barrier that was keeping the castle safe has expanded to the rest of the land, but this allowed the 3 wizards to make their entrance unnoticed and trying to get to Princess Zelda, who is still holding everything together inside the vault. That way, the mages will be able to disperse the protective magic for good. Upon reaching the vault, you see the old man from before trying to reason with the 3 mages to not attack Zelda and break the magic protection. The 3 mages proceed to attack the old man instead, leaving him mortally wounded on the ground just like the king happened in the same room earlier. Then they attack Zelda, breaking her concentration and causing the Great Jungle of Hyrule to start wilting permanently. The three mages make their exit, and everything goes to shit. All the monsters are pouring in, except even more now. The jungle is, like I said, it's decaying, it's dying, and there's no saving it. Link and Zelda go up to the old guy, who tells them that it's now too late to save the jungle, and that the mages won't stop there. They'll burn kingdom after kingdom over and over, sweeping across the land until they become too old to wield their power anymore. They will destroy kingdoms until they die of old age. He then also claims the existence of a mighty artifact beneath the land where these three mages got their abilities, and the artifact may also be able to remove them. Then he dies from his wounds. Upon hearing this information, however, Zelda recollects something, and grabs a book off of a bookshelf in the throne room. She reads about how in the depths of Hyrule there was a fountain that had granted the mages throughout Hyrule's history their power, and that it was locked by 3 keys. Zelda tasks Link with finding these, as she realizes it's now her duty to forcefully ensure the safety of the castle and the town surrounding it, now that the protective force field thingy has been broken. At this point, Hyrule Castle is now a safe area, but this time it's not because it has a force field, it's because it's being guarded by a lot of people. The rest of the map shows the jungle turned brown and dying. And, of course, there's more monsters than ever. Now, Link needs to visit 3 more dungeons throughout Hyrule. This is the other weird cavern things that you've seen earlier. The Cavern of Thunder, the Cavern of Ice, and the Cavern of Flame. Now, normally you can traverse through the normal jungle areas, even if there's not, like, a path around there. But around these areas specifically, the foliage was too thick for you to be able to go through them. But now that the jungle is decaying, you can make it through the foliage and check out these 3 caverns. Inside of each will be a key you need, which you can use to, hopefully, once you get all 3, find the fountain and use it to stop the mages. Once again, these can be done in any order. Each dungeon enchants one of your weapons with a strange power the first time you enter. The Cavern of Flame adds a fire-like effect to your weapon, the Cavern of Thunder gives you an electric effect to your weapon, and the Cavern of Ice gives your weapon a freezing effect. All the dungeons give you puzzles based on the effect for your weapon you're given in the dungeon, and when you get to the end of each dungeon, you'll find one of the mages again, by the key, who will say that they sensed you coming to this dungeon. Dialogue differs between which mage you're fighting and how many dungeons you've cleared so far. The flame-based dungeon while you fight Kyrian, the electricity-based dungeon while you fight Rula, and the ice-based dungeon while you fight J-Lo. Each mage, you're fighting them this time, not just a boss monster. Each mage will wield powers based around that from their respective dungeon. So, Kyrian, fire powers, Rula, electric powers, J-Lo, ice powers. After beating each mage, they dip. Again, they have a tendency to dip a lot. This is like the 4th time. At the end of each dungeon, you get a cool magic key that doesn't look like any key you've seen before, but still looks like a key. And the enchantment on your weapon becomes permanent. The enchantment can be switched to a different weapon at a weapon shop, however. After getting all 3 keys, you can return to Hyrule Castle to find Zelda waiting there. She tells you she's done some research, but she can't find out where to take each key once you've obtained them. Then suddenly, a weird glowing sphere appears and disappears in front of Link and Zelda. Zelda realizes that it's coming from the keys, and that every time the glowing ball appears, it appears in a direction relative to them that's pointing to a specific location. The 2 follow the orb. You have to do a whole sequence where you have to follow which direction the thing is leading to. And eventually, it leads you to an area behind Hyrule Castle grounds with an abnormally colored stone patch in the ground that the glowing ball from the keys floats into, revealing a passageway. The tunnels inside show murals of every magic-wielding enemy or character in Zelda, including those that aren't in the timeline that this game is a part of. At the end of the tunnel, there's murals of the 3 mages that created the Great Jungle of Hyrule and the 3 evil descendants. At the end, shows a strange and mystical fountain. A strange spectral entity flies out from the fountain, and it reads the divine power coming off of Link and Zelda. It senses that Zelda is part of the royal bloodline and holds the Triforce of Wisdom, and that Link is the descendant of the Hero of Time and the Hero of Twilight, and holds the Triforce of Courage. The entity tells the 2 of the power it's bestowed upon the many who have uncovered this place throughout each century and timeline, and that the power it gifts is so often used for evil, which is why the entity locked the cave behind keys in the first place. After the old king of Hyrule came to him with the 3 soon-to-be mages and a plan to use the power the entity provides to ward evil out of the kingdom, with the enchanted jungle, the entity finally thought peace would come from its great power in this timeline. Then, the descendants of those mages unlocked the fountain and bathed in it to gain magical power for themselves, so they could tear down what their ancestors built. Since the entity recognizes the pieces of the Triforce in Link and Zelda, it realizes that they can be trusted to help restore the peace. So, it instructs Link to dip one of his weapons into the fountain. This enchants that weapon, just like the enchantments in these areas. And the entity instructs Link that if he hits the mages with that weapon enough, it should take away their powers. Alright, now soon we're going to get to the story finale, but before we do, I want to talk about some of the gameplay stuff in this. We talked a lot about the story and the world map and the game design, but not really the mechanics and all that stuff. Or the art style, or the music. I'm not really going to talk about the music much. But the art style and the gameplay and the controls and all that. So, the controls are similar to that of Link's Awakening. You get the B button to attack, you hold the B button to spin attack, and then X and Y are to use items, and then A is to interact and to pick things up. The R button is used for shield, and the L button for charge attack. Now, you start out with a really basic and weak guard sword and no shield, but you can buy weapons from a shop. You'll notice that when I was doing the stuff with the item progression, I didn't actually include any weapons in the item's basic progression. And that's because all the weapons are a part of the shop mechanic. There is a shopkeeper in Hyrule Town who is taking advantage of the current predicament that Hyrule is currently in with the failed jungle protection and all the monsters running free after 250 years for the first time. So he's starting a business, he offers you new weapons. Now, he offers you swords. There's all these new swords you can get from him. And then he also offers you other weapons. Like, you can buy a spear, you can buy an axe, and then he's also who you buy bows or shields from. Now, there's no weapon durability in this game. You don't, like, break your weapon and then you have to be like, ugh, and then you have to go buy a new one. No, these weapons are all permanent, but you can buy new ones to just have stronger weapons, and then you can switch between different weapons. Like, you can switch between the sword and the spear and the axe for different attacks for different purposes. You need to attack differently for different purposes at any point. Art style. So, Link's Awakening's art style, I liked it, mostly. There was a few things that I felt like looked a little bit too toy-like, mainly the trees. But everything else had, a bit of its charm, especially since Link's Awakening is one of the more goofy Zelda games. It has Mario enemies in it, so, and it's also meant to be a dream. However, I don't really think that should come back. I think that should be Link's Awakening thing. Like maybe in Oracle remakes, but not here. I don't think it would work here. Instead, I feel like this art style should be, like, more of a, well, either what I'm about to say or pixel art. Pixel art would be good. I wouldn't mind this being a pixel art game at all, don't get me wrong. If they were, instead of getting, if they get Grezzo on the Oracle games, and they get the dudes behind Canes of Hyrule Brace Yourself games, if they get them to make, like, a full new 2D Zelda game, which they should do, because Cadence of Hyrule was amazing. But, assuming that they do get Grezzo to do this, which I assume that they would, it would be something I feel like the art style of A Link Between Worlds makes it sort of like what Mario Odyssey did. Like, Mario Odyssey took, like, the cartoony art style, but then added textures to it, like, you could see, like, the denim on Mario's overalls and, like, the hair on his mustache. So, sort of like that. Like, you take the top-down style that the Link Between Worlds used, and then, like, you add texture to, like, the hair and the grass. Like, more realistic texture to that stuff. And then that's what sort of this game will look like. And then I'll also have, like, sort of more of, like, a darker aesthetic, because there's the rainforest and, like, jungle everywhere. Like, so the sun is often being obstructed by the leaves. Except, of course, when you're in any of the main areas. Like, when you're in the lake, and the Death Mountain, and the Gerudo Desert. I mean, like, those places were warded off from monsters anyway. I haven't decided why. That is blatantly a plot hole. I have not decided how to patch that. Anybody has any ideas, I am open. But anyway, as I'm saying, those areas are the aesthetically different areas. Anyway, I've been putting this off for too long. It's time for the story grand finale, baby. Upon exiting the tunnels of the Fountain of Mystic Strength, word is received from everyone in Hyrule Town that the 3 mages have been spotted in Kakariko Village. They're wreaking havoc on the small town. It's also specified that the mages are laughing while doing it, and they are very probably just doing it for fun. Psychotic madness. Don't overdo your magic. It might screw over your descendants and make them end up in a padded cell. Okay? I'm just saying. So upon hearing this, Link and Zelda make way for Kakariko Village. It's pretty fast, it's kind of close in this world map. And the mages are doing exactly that. The town is burning, and the mages are the ones burning it, laughing maniacally while they're doing so. Link steps in and uses his new enchanted weapon to take a swipe at one of the mages, specifically J-Lo. J-Lo's powers flicker, and he realizes what's been done to Link's blade, and that another cut or two will remove his powers. The three mages, in a panic move, use their powers to merge with one another into a being of pure magic to stand up against Link's blade and destroy him. The result is Kirulelo, the Lord of Dark Magic, and this game's final boss. Not Ganon. I didn't add a Ganon twist. Part of me kind of wanted to add a Ganon twist, but I didn't. It's just these guys. These are the villains. These are the villains. It's a not Ganon villain for a Zelda game. I know people want it. I'm providing, even though I feel like not having like the series' main famous villain makes the game feel like not one of the important ones. But I resisted. We have new villains here. Kirulelo. That's the final boss. Kirulelo is a mix between all 6 of the bosses you've already fought up to this point. The 3 mages you fought, and the 3 boss monsters you fought that the mages summoned in the towers, all mixed into one massive multi-phase boss. Fire magic, ice magic, electricity magic, all flying everywhere while Link swipes at the Kirulelo again and again and again with his blade. At last, the beast lets out a massive shriek as the monsters form, and all of its magic is sucked out of it, leaving J-Lo, Rula, and Kyrian on the ground, bruised and battered with no magic power left. Zelda goes up to Link and thanks him gravely for saving Hyrule from the 3 crazy mages who murdered her father. While Link and Zelda are talking, the 3 former mages slip away, but there's only so much evil they can do without their powers anyway, so still crazy though. But even with the kingdom saved, and the mage is now powerless, the people of Hyrule have to now learn to live without the jungle's protection. There's no more saving it. It's gone. So I hope you guys enjoyed my 2D Zelda pitch idea. I did my best. I have pretty limited knowledge of the Zelda series, but I still am fascinated by the idea of a new 2D Zelda, especially when it's like jungle-based. I think that would be pretty cool. So I decided to throw this together. I think this would be a very good idea. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed my ranting about a series I don't know a ton about. And, yeah, maybe I'll do more 2D game pitches in the future, because I feel like 2D gaming has a lot of untapped potential. Like, a lot of 2D games that are coming out are very basic, it's like, you have to just do level by level, left to right progression, which is, even though I like these games, I will admit, so basic, so basic. You guys could do so much more with that. So, who knows, maybe I'll make a 2D Kirby game pitch, a 2D Yoshi game pitch, a 2D Donkey Kong pitch. I don't know a lot about the Donkey Kong series. I couldn't get into Tropical Freeze. I'm too bad at it. I have so much of a skill issue. 2D Metroid game pitch. Expect that. I've had that written up for years, actually. I have. I've had my 2D Metroid game pitch written up for years. So, see that coming sometime eventually. And thank you for watching.